Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and warm welcome to our session titled Improving Working Condition for Sanitation Workers Through Standardized FSM Services. Thank you for being here. Participation is a bit scarce. I'm hoping that more people are coming, but that's very much representative of how the sanitation workers topic need more visibility at the global level. This global discussion that we are convening in those type of conferences. So thank you very much for being here, and thank you for your interest in the topic and for your willingness to engage in the follow-up discussion. So let me start by introducing myself. My name is Alexandra Dubois, and I work as a WASH advisor for GIZ, for the water policy sector program in GIZ. I'm based in Bonn, so basically next door. And yes, I'm also part of the SUSANA Secretariat. SUSANA stands for Sustainable Sanitation Alliance. So I'll have two of my colleagues who will be presenting on behalf of SUSANA later on. And yes, today I will be moderating the session. So once again, thank you for being here. And yes, let's have a look at the program that we have prepared for you for the next 90 minutes. So in theory, what we want to do is to distribute the program in two distinct parts. First, we will have a series of presentations covering the situation of sanitation workers, as well as the role of standards and certification in fecal sludge management, and how do those two disciplines interconnect, so to say. We'll also have some experience from the ground, from the water utilities, namely NAWASCO, the Nakuru water utility in Kenya. And yes, so we'll have interesting contribution from PASA, the Pan-African Sanitation Association of Sanitation Workers. We also have some contribution from FSMA, from SUSANA, from NAWASCO, from WaterAid and GIZ SUSANA. And after that, we'll try to keep at least 30 minutes for in-depth group discussion on how to go forward. We'll try to process a little bit the information that we will have gathered during those presentations and how to put them into action, what to do with them, basically. So I'll give more information or more instruction when we get to that stage, but just to let you know, we'll try to make it a little bit interactive and have your contribution included in the outcome of the session. So, yes, that's it for me. I will now, without further ado, hand over to Mr. Ibra Sow, who is the president of the Pan-African Association of Non-Sewer Sanitation Operator, PASA, or APA in French. So yes, Mr. Sow is going to make his opening remark in French, so you can already prepare your headset. Yes, and Mr. Sow, c'est à vous.
Merci beaucoup. Excusez-moi. Merci beaucoup, Alexandra. Je pense que j'avais envoyé ma fiche, n'est-ce pas, pour le ici.
Pour votre présentation, c'est ça?
Oui.
C'est là, vous appuyez là pour passer à la prochaine.
Non, le discours, on n'avait pas. Non, donne-moi mon... Attendez, excusez-moi, je prends mon discours. Voilà, donc merci beaucoup Alexandra de m'avoir donné la parole et vous me permettez, n'est-ce pas, à l'entame de mon propos d'exprimer mes sincères remerciements pour l'honneur que vous me faites, n'est-ce pas, à me permettre d'ouvrir cette section. Vous êtes sans savoir la difficulté que rencontrent les travailleurs de l'assainissement dans l'exercice de leur noble métier. Je peux citer, entre autres, la précarité des personnes qui travaillent dans le secteur en tant que travailleurs de l'assainissement, la non prise en compte de l'assainissement par les gouvernements locaux, qui continuent à faire du secteur de l'assainissement un secteur non prioritaire. Ainsi, pour améliorer leurs conditions de travail, il faut impérativement des solutions suivantes. 1. Renforcer la capacité des agents de l'assainissement. Deuxièmement, encourager les innovations en matière d'équipement et de protection individuelle adaptée. Troisièmement, veiller à ce que toute personne désireuse d'exercer dans le secteur de l'assainissement bénéficie des conditions suivantes pour préserver sa vie et celle de sa famille: le dépistage systématique des maladies à risque, le vaccin contre les maladies à risque existants, la prise en charge des maladies liées à leur profession. Prendre des mesures incitatives pour encourager les gouvernements à prendre les agents de l'assainissement en compte dans l'élaboration des politiques et des règlements nationaux en matière de l'assainissement. Pour clore mon propos, j'invite M. Tim Wainwright, que j'ai rencontré aux États-Unis récemment, c'est le président de WaterAid, qui affirmait en son temps, je cite, « Les travailleurs du secteur de l'assainissement assument l'un des rôles les plus importants dans la société. À cet effet, il est particulièrement choquant de constater que ces travailleurs sont forcés de travailler dans des conditions qui mettent leur santé et leur vie en péril, qu'ils sont en but à l'ostracisme et à la marginalisation. Au lieu de disposer d'un équipement adéquat et de voir le travail vital qu'ils effectuent. Donc, ce qui, j'espère, suffit à interpeller chacun sur la nécessité d'agir pour la valorisation de ceux sans qui nous n'atteindrons pas les ODD 6.2. Je vous remercie de votre attention concernant. C'était le discours que je vais à vous proposer pour mon discours d'ouverture. Et là, je vais passer à la présentation concernant l'amélioration des conditions de travail des agents grâce à la standardisation des services FSM. Voyez-vous, ça, c'est une société que je dirige il y a 20 ans de cela. Et voilà les camions qui sont derrière et les agents devant. Maintenant, à votre gauche, vous allez voir un camion qui déporte sauvagement dans la nature auprès, n'est-ce pas, d'un lac. Et voyez-vous, le gars, il n'a même pas où se tenir pour ouvrir les vannes. Voilà l'état des lieux. La photo qui est là stipule un déportage sauvage. Les camions sont éparpillés partout et on déporte n'importe comment, n'importe où. N'est-ce pas? On a en Afrique pratiquement 500 grandes villes, 500 millions d'habitants en milieu urbain et 90% sont dans l'assainissement autonome. Les 7 millions de mètres cubes de boue de vidange sont déversés chaque jour dans la nature. Le taux de couverture n'est que 5%. impact négatif sur la population, mais surtout sur les travailleurs de l'assainissement. En 2020, je devais me rendre à Kampala pour le congrès de la foi. Avant mon départ, un jour avant mon départ, je devais partir le dimanche et le vendredi, ce jeune homme que vous voyez, les deux gosses que vous voyez là, sont rentrés dans une fosse pour curer. Ils étaient 3, le camion faisait 3 personnes, les deux sont rentrés. L'un est rentré, l'autre était en train de surveiller. Celui qui est rentré dans la fosse a eu un malaise et l'autre qui est en dessous savait exactement de quoi il s'agissait parce que lui, il a fait la formation, n'est-ce pas, en sécurité environnementale. Il a su qu'il y avait le gaz, n'est-ce pas, H2S que le gosse avait inhalé. Alors, l'autre, quand il sortait, il a mis ses mains au devant de la fosse et il s'est hissé. Quand sa tête est sortie, malheureusement, le gaz avait déjà fait son affaire, il est retombé dans la fosse. Le chauffeur, qui est en Bouboula, a vu l'action et part à son secours. Celui qui était accroupi, qui avait fait la formation, qui savait de quoi il s'agissait, lui dit « N'y va pas, c'est le gaz ». Malheureusement, l'autre n'a pas suivi les conseils. Lui aussi, il est rentré dans la fosse pour tirer. Celui qui était déjà atteint, lui aussi, il est resté là-bas. Ils sont tous deux morts sur le coup. Et c'était des cousins. Je les ai enterrés le lendemain pour me rendre à Kampala. Pour vous dire les catastrophes que ça peut engendrer. Maintenant, qui est travailleur de l'assainissement? Une personne salariée ou non qui est en charge du nettoyage, de l'entretien, de l'exploitation ou de la vidange d'une infrastructure d'assainissement à n'importe quelle étape de la chaîne de valeur. Et voilà la chaîne de valeur, il s'agit des toilettes, n'est-ce pas, la collecte et le transport, le traitement, n'est-ce pas, et la valorisation des boues. Une chose que les personnes ne mettent pas dans la chaîne de valeur, mais maintenant qui est très nouveau et qu'il faut prendre en considération, la valorisation des boues. Maintenant, ça c'est le vidangeur mécanique qui est là avec son camion et qui fait, n'est-ce pas, l'opération mécaniquement. Voilà les deux vidangeurs manuels distincts. Lui qui est en chemise, qui est torse nu, il le fait de façon très draconienne. C'est-à-dire, lui, tout ce qu'il fait, chaque jour, il y a un risque qu'il va mourir aujourd'hui. Et souvent, c'est des gens qui vieillissent très mal et qui ont une espérance de vie très limitée parce qu'ils n'ont pas aucune garantie sociale leur permettant de vivre longtemps. Pas possible. Quand on est dans ce créneau-là, il ne faut pas espérer vivre longtemps. L'autre, au moins, il est un peu vidangeur manuel, mais quand il met ses protections, vous avez vu, il a mis ses dents, peut-être qu'il a oublié ses casquettes, mais quand même, lui, il est beaucoup mieux outillé que l'autre. Il a beaucoup plus de chance. Maintenant, il y a aussi ceux qui travaillent, n'est-ce pas, dans les STBV, les stations de bout de vidange. Maintenant, c'est révolu. On parle maintenant de stations de valorisation des bouts de vidange. Ce n'est plus une station de bout de vidange, mais de valorisation des bouts de vidange. Et voilà le système qui est là à gauche, comment les bassins que vous connaissez bien. Et maintenant, ça, c'est des bassins aérodiques que les gens sont en train de curer. Mais mécaniquement, vous avez vu la tuyauterie. Et maintenant, là, c'est les cureurs et les déboucheurs. Vous avez vu, même, il y a une dame là-dessus, là-dedans, cette femme qui est à votre gauche, et elle a fait son baccalauréat, elle n'a pas eu, elle a préféré, n'est-ce pas, nous rejoindre et pour pouvoir vraiment être au diapason de toutes les situations. On l'a mis, n'est-ce pas, comme étant un apprenti éboueur. Elle a fait son apprentissage. Maintenant, elle est devenue un chauffeur de camion, n'est-ce pas, mais qui maîtrise bien l'outil des égouts. Voilà, à gauche, quelqu'un qui est bien outillé, mais vous savez, il est obligé de rentrer dans les égouts parce qu'il y a de ces choses, vous avez vu, les pierres, les grosses pierres qui tournent autour, il y en a qui l'a déjà sorti déjà. Ces pierres noirâtres-là étaient dans cet égout-là. On n'a pas le matériel pour faire sortir ça. Il faut quelqu'un qui rentre là-dedans, qui sort. Mais quand même, qu'on équipe un peu quand même. Donc, le constat général, c'est quoi? Je pourrais citer d'autres, mais en cas d'évoquer constitue un ensemble de précarité des conditions de travail de ces travailleurs de l'assainissement. D'où la nécessité de les encadrer, former et formaliser pour qu'ils puissent exercer en toute sécurité le travail noble qu'ils font en profit de leur population. C'est pourquoi j'invite Tim Weteke, président comme je l'ai dit, qui a affirmé dans son temps tout ce que j'ai cité tout à l'heure, n'est-ce pas, que j'espère suffit pour interpeller chacun, n'est-ce pas, sur la nécessité d'agir pour la valorisation de ceux qui, n'est-ce pas, nous aident à obtenir ces ODD, bien que difficiles à obtenir. La recommandation, tout ceci nous mène donc à comprendre que pour globalement améliorer la situation des travailleurs de l'assainissement, il faille à l'échelle internationale définir des standards relatifs non seulement à l'exécution de ces métiers, mais aussi aux politiques et aux règlements qui devraient être pris en compte de manière par des gouvernements locaux au moment de l'élaboration des politiques et des autres réglementations en matière d'assainissement, pour qu'effectivement le principe d'inclusion des ODD 6.2 s'applique aussi à ceux qui, par leur travail, contribuent à sa réalisation. Je vous remercie.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Ibrasso. So thank you very much, Mr. So, for stating the current state of play of the experience by the sanitation workers in their day-to-day life. And thank you so much for sharing as well the stories. What would you like? The headset, right. Oui, merci pardon, je m'adresse à vous. Okay, so thank you so much for sharing the stories of the sanitation workers. I think that's very needed. We really need stories. We need to tell the story of those people. We need to put face and names to those people to really be able to understand the realities in which they're operating on a daily basis. So thank you very much for that. Thank you for being the voice of those people who really need, a voice at the global stage. And with that, I would like now to invite Jennifer Williams, who is the Executive Director of the Fecal Sludge Management Alliance, followed by Ajit Edatut, yes, here, who is the Susanna Working Group co-lead of, the Working Group Operation and Maintenance, and they're going to tell us about the role of standards and certification in fecal sludge management. So, Jennifer, welcome.
Thank you, Alexandra. Thank you again to Mr. So for sharing an important context, and I really appreciated the inclusion of pictures, because pictures, they always say a picture is worth 1,000 words. So I think he clearly painted a picture for us to see why this is so important. So as Alexander mentioned, I'm with the Fecal Sludge Management Alliance. We have three main things. We're a member network. We aim to provide industry support, and we also organize the world's only conference on fecal sludge management. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about today is we talk a lot about policies, we talk a lot about regulations, and I wanted to show a picture here on a graphic on how standards actually fit into this. So if we think about the FSM industry as the bigger outer circle in the enabling environment, we have policies which set the high-level expectations, so what should we be doing? We have regulations which set the boundary conditions, but they also tell us how well are we doing. But it's really in the standard circle that set and assign the quantifiable requirements that tell us what we should be doing and at which levels. So it's an important piece of the puzzle. I feel like it's been a missing piece of the conversation. We focused a lot on regulation, but in the absence of defining what we need to regulate, the regulations feel a bit empty. So this is a visual I've been working on for some time. Also, welcome to feedback on how I can improve the But I also wanted to give a quick overview for standards. Some of you may not be very familiar with them. Some of you may be extremely familiar with them. They are a specific requirement, a specification, vocabulary, or method that can be used to create consistency. And we talk a lot about the inconsistent data in sanitation, and I think this is also one of the big gaps, is we haven't identified completely for the FSM value chain, a set of standard language. And so in the absence of that, we have a lot of terms that we use differently or loosely, and then with the added complexity of different languages and different cultural contexts, we've got a lot of people saying the same thing, but arguing that they're not saying the same thing, and so we just see a lot of consistency. And that's really also how the standard can create a common language. And it's through these processes that we can start to formalize the FSM industry. I think we saw what informality looks like, and I hope none of you leave the room today feeling okay about accepting the informality of the conditions of current sanitation workers. They're playing a vital role in their community, and they're not being recognized. But I do think this is one of the ways that we can start to define some of these, create some norms at the global level that can then later be localized within appropriate cultural and geographic conditions. So there's all different kinds of standards. Also, that's not a one-size-fits-all. So while we do have a few standards, a couple of different ISO standards and a couple of different product standards, we have lots of different kinds. So you have global, national, or local standards, which can be adopted at different mechanisms. Some have a very rigorous process, like ISO standards, but some can be more quickly adopted, like industry standards. There's also technical standards, which I'm sure many of you may be familiar with already. We can point to a couple of different ones of the ISO standards, which really give you the norms and requirements and specifications for technology, equipment, and devices. So if you think about how many standards went into the equipment back there that makes the virtual component of this conference possible, there are quite a few. There's also management and quality standards that set parameters for assessment of performance and how to manage systems appropriately. So there's a couple different examples on quality management systems and on environmental management systems also. And then you can also have more generic standards and more specific ones. So it's not a one-size-fits-all. We're not going to solve the sanitation problem with the three that I've listed there. Again, most well-developed industries have hundreds of standards of all different types that really drive consistency, product quality, and help us identify how to mitigate risk. So some characteristics of a global FSM standard, which is one area that the FSM Alliance would really like to push forward, is to create more global FSM industry standards that can be adopted by private sector players. When we think about industries, someone I was speaking to said, standards are at the heart of everything that we do in industry. And so if we try to imagine a sanitation industry without standards, we're trying to have a body without a heart. And so we know that it's a vital part of the body. It gives oxygen to our brains. And so I really feel like it's a key missing component that's been left out of the conversation to date. So our vision for this would be really to build upon existing guidelines and standards that already exist. We don't want to undermine work that's already been done. It's more about bringing it together and applying it to the whole FSM value chain. Again, being quite ambitious that it could be both globally relevant and then localized further. and hopefully broadly accepted, and through a very stakeholder-intensive process. So having many different regional subgroups working in different levels, but also knowing we need to develop it globally so that there can be broader acceptance as well. So we would really want to focus on an FSM quality and risk management standard as a starting point. And there is fortunately some, there are some organizations that have standardized a process to develop standards, so you might be familiar with some of them. The fair trade standards, there's already some in agriculture, aquaculture, the ones for cotton and coffee. And there is an organization based in the UK that is focused on creating industry standards that have a focus on sustainability and also creating fair markets. So that would be the model that we would be looking to do this. But I do think it's a big step that is needed to formalize FSM and non-sewered sanitation. I think it's the missing component, and I think it's why we fail to attract private sector and finance players, because we're not speaking their language. They speak in industry standards, we're speaking in development terms, and I think in order to really engage them, we need to speak a common language. And then lastly, just this graphic is just to show us how it can inform policy, it can help embody regulation, it can facilitate conversations with financing, but it also can improve services. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. There isn't a lot to say after such detailed explanations, but I would definitely like to quickly touch upon one little story from what I've been through, and I want to touch upon a few things which could be used as principles or ideas while setting up these standards. We are in this, as an industry, we are in this process of setting up many standards, right? So around 10 years ago, when I was starting to work as a sanitation professional, I started working with the city of Kochi, quite close to my hometown. And we were doing a sanitation planning exercise. And back then, during some conversation, came up this question, like, what about septage management? At that point of time, we were only talking about sewerage, and we were trying to start a conversation with decentralized as well. And just to understand, what is this industry doing? What is this industry? I picked up the phone, called the operator, and asked him whether I can join you on one trip to know what you do or what your workers do. He said, yeah, totally fine, but we have to meet at 10:30 in the night. We went, I met him, okay, that's fine. We went on a trip. We went to a house as if we were going to steal something. We straight go into the backyard, open up some stuff, break some concrete, and then after the emptying was done, we had to take the smallest routes of the road, of the city. We have to stay away from the main traffic, because at any point of time, if he's coming across a police patrol or something, there's going to be other issues, because there's no legal mandate for anyone to do the service. The work is informal, so if you're caught doing this work, there comes the question, where are you putting it in? There's no legal place to put it in, the collected sludge, so you're doing something illegal. So you were no less than a thief at that point of time. Time has changed from there. India has seen so many different fecal sludge treatment plants coming up. Even the city of Kochi has, I think, the third one is under construction probably. I keep on trying to meet him all the time when I go there. But the mentality of the workers, the kind of work that they do, has not changed a lot, even though the treatment plants are there, because the standards, the regulations, they've come up, they're not, some have come, some have not. There's not enough information, there's not enough co-development process that has gone through. So there are still gaps over there. The work remains the same. Maybe they don't have to do all their work in the night these days, but things have not changed a lot. And I think a lot of it is related to how our work is mostly focused on building treatment plants and not really setting up the systems around it has happened. So with that little note, in our sanitation sector, we do have quite a lot of challenges, which is related to the O&M of the system. So we can see there's a lot of backlogs which were existing from the sector because it was also mostly ignored most of the time. And when we look at projects as such, several of the projects had been totally ignoring the component of O&M and leaving it for the beneficiary to figure out once the construction, once the implementation has happened. So meaning, how do they operate, how these systems are going to work? This was totally not put into place until probably quite recently, right? And there's always the case of marginalized workers because the sector itself is informal. So this is sector-wide. These we can see sector-wide, and whether we look at FSM, whether we look at wastewater, these challenges have been there, and because FSM as a sector has stayed quite a lot informal for the long period of time, these are really there. And when we look at building roles and building standards and certifications, they usually built with certain key fundamentals, right? When we are looking at building treatment plants, we are looking at whether the human and environmental health is kind of taken care, the quality of services are there, or are we building sometimes we're building standard operating protocols or certain service delivery gaps, how to bridge them while setting up these roles and certifications. But at the same time, what we should not really forget that we need to consider the well-being of the workers. We need to make sure that these are locally relevant. At the same time, they're practically achievable. There is a whole conversation around wastewater standards. We heard it also yesterday at the plenary, that they are being built looking probably only at one angle, that the environment needs to be taken care, but at the same time, if they're not practically achievable, the whole relevance of the whole standards or whole certification process will not be there, and the informality will just continue because we need the service to be working. And as long as they are not co-developed, as long as they are not there to build trust among us, between the operators, between the people who are receiving the service, and between the people who are monitoring, we are not going to achieve what we want to get out of building these standards and certifications. So at this point, we definitely want to discuss this more, so that's why we do have a more group discussion session. But at this point, I would definitely like to invite you all to have a look at our working group. We are working group 10 at the Susanna Sustainable Sanitation Alliance. My other lead, Stefan Reuter, is here, as well as we have another lead from UMI, Zifa. Unfortunately, she couldn't reach here for this conference. We are here to help with in terms of engagement and knowledge management. We plan to discuss on this topic, push more advocacy, and build more knowledge around this topic so that we can get into further discussions with further stakeholders through this. With that, I'll close my short speech. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Ajit. Yeah, it's very clear presentation, and there's many takeaways. I was trying to think of one to choose. I think the one of there is no regulation without standards. I think that will stick for a while with me at least. But not an easy task, but definitely very necessary. Not only for the recognition of sanitation workers, I believe, but also the recognition of the whole subsector of fecal sludge management. Yes, and with that, it's with great pleasure. I just want to check, is the IT team, is Zaitouni with us? Is she online with us?
You can ask her.
Oh, hi, Zaitouni. Are you with us? Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
great. That's so great to hear your voice.
Thank you.
So, great pleasure to... sorry? Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Yes, so Zaitouni Kanenje is the manager of the low-income department at the Nakuru Water and Sanitation Utility in Kenya, NAWASCO. And yes, she will share with us her experience of integrating sanitation worker services into into the formal structure of the utility to extend wash services to low-income areas. So I'm very pleased to hand over to you, Saituni, for your presentation. Yeah, and let us know when you want to go to the next slide. I will be taking control of the slides.
Yes, please. Thank you so much, Alexandra, and I'm grateful to share the experience of Nakuru Water and Sanitation Company on the journey that we have had over time in regards to integrating sanitation into the utilities. Just as you can see, Nakuru Water is Nakuru Water and Sanitation Company, not just sewerage. So for many years, the utilities in Kenya have not been taking into consideration sanitation, that is on-site sanitation. The main focus has been basically on sewerage. And specifically for Nakuru, our sewer coverage is only 30%. That means the rest of the population are on-site sanitation, and whereby most of the time the people that who are affected most are actually the people in the informal settlement, and that is the section that I am heading in Nakuru Water. Next slide, please. Yeah, so for Nakuru Water, we are working on how best we can be able to legalize, especially initially what we used to refer to illegal pit emptying. How can we be able as a utilities to take up the responsibility of sanitation within our organization? And we are looking at different aspects because mainly for the water companies, investing in on-site sanitation is seen to be very costly, and also the issue of who is responsible for what. As in, when we talk about on-site sanitation, we are talking about everything from containment, transport, containment, emptying, transport, disposal, and all that. So in this case, as a company, we've been looking at who is responsible for what is the role of the community when it comes to, say, containment, what is the role of the Department of Health, what is the role of the water and sanitation companies like Nawasco. And for Nawasco, we've been like the pilot of integrating on-site sanitation into our structure. And through that, we also look at how best can this be sustainable and how best can this be financed, looking at the roles and responsibilities of different departments. And at the end of it, what is the value for this? For example, if we make sure that when we make sure that we have proper containment, we make sure that we have proper emptying and transportation and safe disposal, what can we be able to do with the final product? So for Nakuru Water, that is what we are looking at, not only emptying and transportation, but across the whole sanitation value chain, from containment to value addition of the fecal sludge. Next slide. So for Nakuru Water, we are looking at, we are starting with first engaging the community, ensuring that people have decent toilets as per the standards, and also just considering that with the focus of low-income areas, it is quite a challenge. When it comes to investing in toilets, people do really weigh what comes first. Do I have to invest in a toilet that will cost me, say, 100,000 Kenyan shillings, or do I invest in, say, housing, education, on all that? So we've come up with quite a number of partners who've been supporting the utilities to see how this can be integrated. And we ensure that through the Department of Health, we have proper containment, that is construction of toilets. Then we also ensure that when this toilet is full, what happens? As a water company, initially we were not looking at it as our responsibility, but still, being a water and sanitation company, we still have responsibilities to ensure that when this toilet is filled up, something has to be done, just like the sewerage and all that. In this case, we have come up with the pit. We of course we had illegal pit emptiers who are doing it at night in a very uncomfortable way. So we have ensured that we have groups of pit emptiers who have come, who we have been able to bring together, register them to be able to do the emptying of the toilets. And we also have different technologies of emptying and transportation of sludge from within our area of service, and mainly our focus here is in the low-income areas, because that is where, say, around 60% of the population are on pit latrines. Then after that, we don't just leave it at that. We do products development, whereby we are producing briquettes out of sludge, and we also integrate hygiene promotion programs through the Department of Health. And we noted that by working very closely with the Department of Health, it becomes more smooth, because usually, you know, there is this, the carrot and stick. The public health comes in to ensure that people adhere to standards, and we come in to support them in say, toilet emptying and transportation, and also on hygiene-related matters, training, sensitizations, and all that. Next slide. Yeah, so as you can see, that is sustainable sanitation, closing the whole of the sanitation value chain. After containment, we have different technologies for emptying, which I'll be able to take you through in the next slide. Transportation, then we have safe disposal, reuse, and at the end of it, still coming back to the community. Next slide, please. Yeah, when you look at this, these were the practices that were before the utilities came in to support the communities. As you can see, the kind of toilets that are there, especially in the low-income areas, toilets that are not emptyable. And when the toilet is not emptyable, in most cases, we find whenever the toilets are filled up, they tend to be closed down and construct another toilet. So the issue here is, do we have the land to keep constructing toilets now and then? Do we have space? And also for those ones that are able to, for example, when you look at the toilet that can be able to be emptied, initially the landlords or the plot owners used to engage like the pit emptiers at night, the illegal pit emptiers who are able to do these jobs at night without really taking into consideration where this sludge is taken. In most cases, it is poured in the open drains or within the society, which is a nuisance and also causing sanitation-related diseases. You can also see how the kind of septics that are available, especially in the low-income areas. But as a utility, we've come up with, together with partnering, we are improving this situation. Next slide. Next slide, please. Yeah, so those are the practices that have been going on. For example, when you look at the kind of emptying, the pit emptiers are actually doing it with their hands, with the buckets, emptying, and most of the time, these toilets, even the pit emptiers themselves, it is very risky because they don't even know when this toilet was constructed, how the stability of the toilet and the kind of solid waste or equipment that are thrown inside the toilet, which is a very risky practices, and that is why it was termed as illegal. But as Nakuru Water, we are working on how to legalize these practices and ensuring that the pit emptiers have proper emptying equipment, and not just that, but starting from containment, ensuring that the containment are up to standard. The use of the toilets also, the people can be able to use the toilets in a proper way without dumping everything inside. Because when you look at this kind of practices, especially in the low-income areas where people do not invest into garbage collection, everything goes into the toilets, like the old blankets, saucepans, syringes, and all that. Everything goes into the toilet. So you can imagine when someone is coming to do pit emptying with their naked hands, and after doing that, no one cares where it is disposed. Like this one, you can see it is actually being disposed in the rivers and sometimes in the open drains. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah, so for the untrained pit emptying, as NAWASCO, we didn't just leave it at that. We had to take a next step. We had to engage the Department of Health. We had to engage the partners so that we can see how best this can be taken care of. Next slide. So for this, we started with for emptying. We started with different type of technologies as we moved on. We started with first identifying who are these pit emptiers, where are they, and we were able to bring them into different groups. Together with the Department of Health, we were able to make sure that they are well equipped, well trained, and also they have the proper vaccines that are required before for pit emptying. And we started with a technology called the GALPA. We engaged them with the GALPA, then later on the ARAMA, which was not, at that time, it was not the best option, but at least it was better than doing it with buckets and with their naked hand. However, with all this technology, we realize that the biggest challenge that we have, that the pit emptiers face, is how to remove the solid waste, especially from the pit latrine, which forms the larger part of whatever that is found in the toilets. So with time, we've been coming up with different options and technologies to improve their standards of as they perform their duties, because we noted that this is not something that we can run away from it. We cannot keep saying that it is illegal, yet this is what majority of the population is going through. So we had to come up with the best way and how we can be able to legalize the practice. Next, please. Yeah, that is one of the technology that currently we are applying in Nakuru. That is a poo-poo pump. As you can see, it is more hygienic as compared to the previous practices. And in our setup, we have for Nakuru, under Nakuru Water, we have 3 pit emptying groups that are registered with support from Nakuru Water, which the utility engages them on a day-to-day basis. We have what we call a permitting model, whereby these 3 groups, we have identified specific areas where they work in, and the utilities have equipment. So the pit emptiers, their organized groups, come to the utilities, pick the equipment to go to do their pit emptying jobs. As you can see, this is more improved as compared to the previous practices. And you can also see, like, there's a lady who is really passionate about pit emptying. She's been doing this for the last 2 years, together as part of the company pit emptying team, with the improved technologies that we have. Next slide. So, as earlier mentioned, the biggest challenge when it comes to pit emptying is the waste, the other waste that is not fecal matter from the toilet, usually which forms almost 70% of the content. We are piloting what we call an excluder. An excluder is meant to separate fecal matter from other waste within the toilet, so that after separating, now the poo-poo pump is brought in to pump into the tank. Next, please. Yeah, so this is also another technology that we have in Nakuru, that is called an MDU, a mechanical dislodging unit, which is attached to what we call a primary collection point, or a PCP. So with the mechanical dislodging unit, it is able to empty a number of toilets within an area. The PCP is only 1,000 meter cubic, but we have a primary collection point which is about 10,000 cubic meter. So, 10,000 liters. So with that, the PCP is able to, the mechanical dislodging unit is able to empty from different toilets, and be able to put that into the primary collection point, the PCP, which now takes that sludge to our treatment plant. Next, Next, please. We also have private exhausters. Apart from the private exhausters, concentrate more on septic tanks. The poo-poo pump and MDU plus the PCP focuses more on the pit latrines. And after that, this is in our treatment plant, we have NAWASCO has established a subsidiary company that is NAWASCOL. NAWASCOL does product development, whereby we have we are able to make briquettes out of sludge through different processes. As you can see, we have when the exhausters or the PCP comes in the treatment plant, they are able to take that into the drying beds, which now undergoes the process of carbonization and all that, until at the end of it, we have the briquettes. These are the processes that we've been able to go through to make the product, the briquettes out of it. Next, please, should be final. And that is the drying bed. Those are the briquettes that we have. And with this, it is able still to go back to the same community. We are able to sell briquettes, that is the charcoal for cooking in the communities at an affordable price. So for us, sludge, we really value that because that is raw material for us, for our product. Yes, please. Next. Yeah, so for that, NAWASCO is now working on how this can be cost recovery. And through the regulator, that is the Water Service Regulatory Board, we are working on how this can be incorporated into our tariff, whereby the idea is having, say, about 5%. Our customers paying at least 5% for on top of their monthly bill, so that it is able to take care of sanitation, the sanitation chain. Because, as mentioned, whenever there is, say, for example, a disease breakdown in a low-income area or informal settlement, doesn't mean that is their problem alone. It also carries along to even other areas, high income and middle income. So NAWASCO has proposed to our regulator to be able to incorporate at least a percentage on top of their water bill to take care of the cost of emptying, transportation and disposal. Yeah. Next, that should be the end of my presentation.
Thank you very much, Zaituni, for this very informative and also inspiring presentation. We can only salute the effort of NAWASCO for truly integrating fecal sludge management within their utility until the tarification. So yes, well done. And I'm sure you have many questions for our speaker. So yeah, hold your horses. We still have one presentation to conclude our series of presentation. And for that, I'll invite Rob Fuller from WaterAid and my colleague Teresa Heberlein from GIZ Susanna, who are going to tell us a little bit more of what is being done at the global level. So, yes.
Next. Fantastic, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very briefly going to talk about the Initiative for Sanitation Workers, which is an alliance that WaterAid and other organisations are part of. However, in the spirit of full disclosure, this is not my presentation. This is work done by my colleagues Kanika Singh and Dr. Andres Hueso at WaterAid, but they have very modestly put these slides together, not put their names on it, but put my name on it. So I'm Rob Fuller. I'm WaterAid UK's Global Water Sector Advisor and Head of Urban WASH for WaterAid. And despite the fact this isn't my work, it is personally very important to me. And kind of at the opposite end from Ajit's tale of his experiences, I started my career working in sewerage and working as a wastewater treatment plant operator and regularly accessing sewers as part of that work. And I'm very conscious that one of the reasons I'm standing here today is that I did that in the UK in an environment with a strong health and safety policy environment at the national level and at the organisational level. I received repeated mandatory training in order to undertake this work. I had the benefit of the very latest health and safety equipment, gas detectors, breathing apparatus, escape sets, harnesses, rescue equipment, and had colleagues on standby should anything go wrong, and none of those things were available to many people working in sanitation around the world. So this is personally very important to me, and I would also reflect the words of our Chief Executive, Tim Wainwright, that Monsieur Sal also highlighted at the start. So, having said this has nothing to do with me, please don't ask me any tricky questions. So what is the Initiative for Sanitation Workers? Well, it is a consortium, an alliance, as I've said, of a number of organisations. You can see logos at the bottom there, and quite a diverse set of organisations as well, which I think is one of the strengths of the consortium. It's not been going long, although the first 4 organisations at the bottom there were starting to talk about this around 2018, 2019. And it's an initiative that currently receives, very gratefully, some support from Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation through to 2024 to deliver some of the things I will tell you about shortly. So I'm also honoured to be speaking on behalf of the other organisations down there. And I know David Boys isn't here, is he? But David from ILO is at the Congress as well. The initiative has 3 objectives you can see in the screen there, and I won't read them through in detail, but just we're very much keen on the prioritisation at the national political level around the rights of sanitation workers in the government political agendas at the highest level. And then practically within wash sector implementation, what can we do to influence that and the wider labour sector in terms of mainstreaming those rights in actual implementation terms. And then finally, what are the gaps, what are the knowledge gaps that we need to address and fill in order to fully realise the vision of what we want to see. There are a number of work streams that sit under the initiative, and what I think what's good about these, they are complementary to the other things we're hearing here today as well, which is really important. I think it feels like we're all pulling in the same direction. Within these work streams, different organisations within the consortium lead different ones, and you can see the leads at the bottom there. So for this particular work, it's ourselves and SNV. And this is primarily working at that very local level, specifically in a number of countries with actual groups of informal sanitation workers, really working to mobilise, capacitate and build representation and collectivisation for these groups. So the main methodology here, as you can see, is a small grant basis to help with that training, to help with the NGOs that support these workers, bringing them together and doing that capacity building, raising awareness and ensuring the implementation of legal rights which already exist in those countries, building business sense and building operations management models as well, and also bringing other stakeholders in and making them aware, involving them in this process as well. So that phase is underway, as you can see. It's very successful, going very well at the moment, and there will be a second phase of this work, continuing, probably broadening out the countries and the number of associations we are working with. The second stream of work, as you can see here, is specifically led by the World Bank on their own work. So this is an internal piece by the World Bank looking to ensure that where they are supporting sanitation projects, that the rights of workers and labour management procedures in World Bank language are being implemented across all their work programmes. As you can see, it's being tested in Congo, and then we rolled out to other countries as well. And that's quite an important piece of work, that a major donor like that is pulling this into their standardised ways of working within that. The third work stream here, you can see again, is World Bank and also with SNV, and this is a more higher level, so essentially a toolkit for officials anywhere, and the likes of ourselves, WASP practitioners and others, looking primarily in 2 areas, at the kind of procedural, the regulatory guideline standards, what is in place in different countries. So this will be country specific, but then also marrying that with what are the experiences and what are the emerging technological innovations, as it says, and that I think Zaytouni just very well presented of sort of that evolution of use of technology in different contexts as well, thinking of this as a kind of incremental process. And then the final area of work is another one we're leading on, a really interesting area. So this is about that knowledge gaps piece that I mentioned in one of the objectives. And then again, this is targeted research support. So really working with a number of institutions globally, not just in the UK, but in a number of locations, sponsoring PhD students, master's students, to really dig into that knowledge gap as well. And then the interesting part of this is the research awards. So WaterAid has always been very active in the UNC Water and Health Conference, and this is a public health issue as much as anything else, as well as a workers' health issue as well. So within the research grants process, there's an awards process for the best of that work to be taken and showcased at UNC as well every year. That's all I had to say on that matter. It was a very quick skip through it, but hopefully you can see it's a very powerful piece of work, very, very focused piece of work as well, and one I think we hope to continue beyond the current 2024 threshold as well, and continue to support the other initiatives we're hearing about. Thank you very much.
So, thank you very much, Rob. Especially that's a very good that you mentioned the objectives, and one of them is knowledge management, and now we're going to go into one of these products that are there to increase knowledge management and to reach practitioners and anybody interested in the topic of sanitation workers and their rights. So yes, I really tried to jump through it quickly. We wanted to first show you kind of the website itself, but then we thought, then sometimes the internet crashes or whatever happens, so that's maybe a risk we're not really ready to take. But yeah, there will be a QR code at the end, so you can just then afterwards browse the site by yourself. Yeah, this is what you get when you enter. It's sanitationworkers.susanna.org, I believe. And yes, the website has several features. So I'm going to just quickly give you a short about. So yeah, the main objective of it is to be a platform for disseminating and exchanging resources and information concerning sanitation workers. So there are several features in order to do that. The main one is a library. This has all kind of resources, so that can be publications or research, but it's also things like, for example, podcasts or videos. There's photo library, and there's also a blog feature, which I will go a little bit more into detail. And yeah, this contains, for example, opinion pieces, but also, for example, reports on any kind of conferences that have taken place. Yeah, I think because maybe you saw that in the introduction, next to my name was Susanna, so we are here kind of like presenting it on behalf of the Sustainable Sanitation Alliance. You've already met the working group 10 co-lead, and so the Sanitation Workers Knowledge and Learning Hub, it's done by the Initiative for Sanitation Workers, but it's hosted by the Sustainable Sanitation Alliance, which is a platform for, yeah, or a network, let's say, for individuals and organizations that are working in the field of sanitation. And yeah, I think the last point I can jump over, because you already said it, what the initiative consists of and who is partnering up there. So, as I said, one of the main features is the resources. It's kind of a general library. You have several filters that you can go through. So if you want to look for specific types of researches as type of resources. So for example, if you want to look for research, you want to look for case studies, you want to look for standards or for this podcasts, videos, you can then filter through that. There's also the regions, so depending on which region you're most interested in, and then also specific themes that are related to sanitation workers, so dignity, financial security, gender, legal frameworks, and so on. And this is also something where you can contribute to. So, for example, if you have any documents, you have a video, you have a report, something that you would like to share, you can do that. And if you want to know how, it's on the frequently asked questions of the website. There it's described exactly how you can also upload something to the resources. Then there's also some kind of like interactive feature. This is particularly to share stories of the sanitation workers from different parts of the world. So this is kind of how it looks like. If you, you can navigate around, click on the people who are sitting, standing, working there, and then different sanitation workers from different parts of the world can tell their stories with their own voices. So it's in the form of videos, in the form of recordings and pictures, and kind of like they talk about their daily work, their struggles. And lastly, just quickly on the blog feature, this allows on blog posts, opinion pieces, also anything sanitation worker related. And again, this is something where you could contribute if you want to. There are, you can contribute with a blog post of up to 1,200 words or with pictures. Same thing, if you go to the FAQ on the website, you find out how exactly to do that. And this is already it. You can find the Sanitation Workers Knowledge and Learning Hub if you scan the QR code and browse a little bit through it yourself. And thank you very much. Back to you.
Thanks, Rob and Teresa, for presenting us the initiative and the platform dedicated to sanitation workers. Yes, now I would like to allow for some questions for our speakers. If you have any question as well for Zaitouni, I believe she's still online as well. Yes? Okay, so I'm not too sure how we're doing that. Are we?
Yeah, sorry. Was that correct?
Yeah, am I audible? Yeah. Hi, I'm Sneha from the University of Bonn. So I had a question for Jennifer and Ajit, sort of linking both of the context, because Ajit, you spoke about a very local case, right? And then talking about standards and certification. So what do you think would be one of the major challenges in the adaptation, or when different stakeholders at the local level adapt these standards and certificates? Because as we have seen from the presentations today, that different countries have a different trajectory and there are different stages, and also the social context is very different across the country. So what do you think would be one of the major challenges in implementing these standards?
Thank you. I think one of the big challenges will be getting everyone to buy in and agree, so there will be some consensus building that will need to happen. I think the role of this standard is to help provide a minimum baseline of what we would consider safe, but slightly different than a guideline. So it's something that businesses could adopt to say, we are meeting these minimum requirements, and so we can now say that it is safe. I think we have to include some flexibility, but I think what we also see sometimes is humans don't actually want infinite possibilities, so we focused a lot on flexibility in FSM. Humans want flexibility within a defined range, and so that's really what we're trying to present with a standard is, what is the defined range in which you can be flexible, so that you don't go too far out and go crazy, but what can we guarantee is a baseline of safety. Yeah, Ajit?
Not so much to add with that. I just want to say that, like, when we have this experience in wastewater also, like, we are sticking to what is the world standard and then just taking it, just copy pasting that. We want to make sure that that is avoided. So to have a clear consultative process locally before something has been taken up. There's been some interesting work in Kenya, of course, where PASA was also involved, I remember, where self-reporting and self-monitoring efforts were done. I'm not sure what's the status of it now, but these kind of efforts coming from the industry should be appreciated as well. That's all. Thanks.
I hope that responded to your question. There is another question over there from Valentin.
Thanks. I would like to address my question to Zaitouni. Is she still there?
Are you with us, Zaitouni? Can you hear us?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Hi, Zaitouni. Great presentation. I was wondering, because you're one of the few utilities who's really doing this in the African context, how, in your view, could you sort of get more utilities to join the bandwagon? What are your ideas on that? I hope you get my question, right, Zaitouni?
Did you hear?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
Okay, so I want to pluck your brain, madam.
Yeah, thank you, Valentin, for the question. And that is actually what, say, in Kenya, what we are working on together with the regulator, that is the Water Services Regulatory Board, and the Water Services Providers Association, WASPA. Through that, because of the initiative that we have done quite a lot in Nakuru, now the regulator is putting that as one of the key performance indicators for the water companies, just to ensure that the water companies also integrate sanitation in the utilities. That is for WASREB. And when we come to the Water Service Providers Association, we normally have the benchmarking sessions on a yearly basis, every quarter actually. And during the benchmarking session, that is where we share our experiences, where all the utilities come on board on different topics and share our experiences, and especially on sanitation now that right now, since the regulator is also picking that up so that it is integrated within the utilities, it is also becoming more interesting for other water companies in Kenya too. And also, like right now, not only Nakuru, but we also have Kisumu on board. We have Malindi on board that are also taking up. And since it is also becoming the requirement by WASREB, we are doing knowledge sharing exchange program is really key in this. And also, just to mention, it doesn't mean that we've done quite well. We are still struggling, but now that the regulator has also buy-in, it is much easier for us to get even support from the regulator. Yeah.
And maybe, so we're not able to go into group discussion. Unfortunately, I couldn't hold my promise of keeping 30 minutes for interactive session. But there was that one question of how to best use networks and global initiatives and community of practices. Those were presented by our colleague Rob and Teresa. And I think that sharing those type of experience on how successfully a utility was able to implement such a press, having the sanitation workers, the manual emptiers being integrated into the formal services provided by the utility. I think this is, I'm very amazed, and I'm sure there's many people who would need to hear that, and many other water operators who would need to hear this successful experience. I see that there is a question here, Stefan. Sorry, or? Okay.
Very quick, two questions. One question to Rob and the initiative. There are two world-leading big exhibitions. One is WEFTEC in the United States, and another one, IFAD in Germany. Is your initiative able to support maybe some sanitation workers and showcasing the situation, and by that triggering to those big audiences that there's a missing link in the sanitation work? That would be great if there's some support for featuring that there.
Yeah, much as I'd love to spend my colleagues' money, I can't guarantee. But I mean, it's interesting because historically, I mean, my substantive role is Global Water Sector Advisor. My job is to interact between WaterAid as an NGO and the global water sector. And those are places where we historically have not been, and I've been advocating for a long time, those are places where we should be as an organisation. We are in the UK because of our history with the UK sector, but not in those places. So I cannot make promises, but if a request came in, I would wholeheartedly support that internally for us to be there.
Great, you get a message. So the second one, the sanitation worker Susanna.org platform, is it also available in French? Because I'm based in Abidjan right now.
Teresa, you want to respond?
It is.
Yes, so there is a Google
Okay, yeah.
translation
So
feature, so
same,
you
yeah.
can actually translate the content of the whole web page in French, but also in more than 100 languages, because there is not only French, Spanish, English, and Arabic. You have many, many other languages. So yeah, that was one of the priority and one of the key feature that we implemented right from the start. There's another question in the back and then in the front, and then I think we can go to the closing remarks.
Yes, thanks a lot. My question goes to Zaituni. I'm Jason from Kisumu Water. I'd like to know what kind of support outside the utility, that is NAWASCO, that she got that made her jumpstart the project, the entire project of sanitation.
Zaituni, did you hear the question? And are you with us still? Zaituni, did you hear the question?
Yes, I had the question.
Great.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, and I'm glad to respond to Jason. Jason is my colleague from Kisumu, and I'm glad that he's part of this. For Nakuru, just the fact that we are a water and sanitation company, this is something that really the management took very seriously. Although I must say that it wasn't very easy, and also if it was only for the utility, that is NAWASCO, I'm sure we could have not gotten to where we are now. When we started the initiative, we had, say, partners. For example, we had GIZ that actually came in through the Water Sector Trust Fund to support in the initial, like ensuring that people have standard toilets that can be emptiable. Of course, this is not something that could have been done by the utility. And the utility took it very positive. And even after that, we had support from the public health. This made it much easier for the utility to take up sanitation. Because I must say that if it was only for the utility, I'm sure we couldn't have gotten to where we are. And as we move forward, we have had partners coming in. Of course, we started with just construction of toilets with subsidy from the Water Sector Trust Fund under the Bill and Melinda Gates funding. But as we move on, we are trying to see how best we can be able to engage people to invest in their own toilets. So for the company has been very supportive in this. Not only like we don't work as, say, the low-income consumer or poor section department or section alone, but we work as a team. I have a team that I do work with. We have, like for example, we have the technical guys who support in the designs and all that. We have from the public health, someone from the Department of Health was seconded to NAWASCO to support the initiative. And through that, we've been, initially this was seen like a pro-poor initiatives, but now it is not only pro-poor, but it is for the whole, the company has really taken it up. And as we move forward, we are even establishing now a sanitation section or unit within the utility, which has a lot of support from the management, because we took it as part of our responsibility, not just any other business, but purely our responsibility. Because as a utility, we also recognize that if 70% of the population is on-site sanitation, then that means this is our key responsibility and not only sewerage. So we have a team that we do work closely with, and now moving forward, it will not only be a pro-poor thing whereby people tend to think that on-site sanitation is for the poor, but we are taking it up as the responsibility of the company, whereby in future we are looking at even having a sanitation department. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Hezekiah Pire from UN Habitat. I want to appreciate the presenters and the experiences that they have shared. I have one question. when we talk about sanitation workers, we have two categories of sanitation workers, and this distinguishes how they interact with the service. One is the individual workers in the pit that we have seen there, but we also have workers that are in the business of fecal sludge management. They complain about taxes and you know the kind of expenses that they have to go through to make their businesses work. How do we distinguish the sanitation workers that are in the pit from the sanitation workers with businesses as private sector? And how do we ensure that both rights are enhanced?
To whom would you like to address the question? Particular?
I think it's an open, I'm just trying to understand, because when you think about workers, I have interacted with these two categories of workers.
Well, no, I think the speakers... OK. Monsieur... Est-ce que vous avez compris la question?
J'ai très bien compris sa question.
Comment faire la différence entre les vidangeurs manuels et les opérateurs privés? Ma compréhension de la question, c'est les opérateurs privés avec les camions vidangeurs, hein, c'est ça. Donc,
on appelle ça les vidangeurs mécaniques.
Les vidangeurs mécaniques. Oui.
C'est très simple. Les vidangeurs mécaniques, je l'ai défini dans ma présentation, c'est ceux qui travaillent avec des machines, quelle que soit la machine. Les vidangeurs manuels, lui, ne travaille pas avec de machines. Il travaille avec pelle, avec pic, et souvent, c'est des gens qui creusent et qui mettent les produits dans ce qu'ils creusent, dans les trous. Ou bien, ils mettent dans des barils, et à base des chariots, ils transportent des exutoires, en tout cas pour dépoter sauvagement. C'est ça qu'on appelle les vidangeurs manuels. Maintenant, on est en train de voir comment est-ce qu'on va prendre ces vidangeurs manuels dans les associations locaux et les intégrer comme étant, n'est-ce pas, des vidangeurs soit manuels, soit semi-mécaniques. C'est-à-dire les octroyer des tricycles ou bien en tout cas de petits matériels leur permettant de laisser complètement ces pratiques qui sont complètement manuelles et d'essayer de voir comment intégrer un peu de machine dans ce qu'ils font. Ça va les aider, n'est-ce pas, de l'autre côté de leur santé, mais aussi à fournir moins d'efforts pour faire leur travail. C'est pourquoi au sein de l'association panafricaine des acteurs de l'assainissement, on a mis ce qu'on appelle un secrétariat chargé des vidangeurs manuels.
Donc vous focalisez essentiellement sur les vidangeurs manuels au sein de PASA ou bien?
PASA est composé en majeure partie de vidangeurs mécaniques.
Ok. Et
voilà,
récemment, vous avez intégré.
Voilà, maintenant, pour intégrer les vidangeurs manuels, on a créé un secrétariat chargé de ces vidangeurs manuels.
Okay. I hope this answers your question, or you wanted to know more about standards and regulation in terms of distinction between both? Well,
I appreciate the difference between the two. I'm just saying, does this movement also include people who are in the business of fecal sludge management? People with trucks, for example, who are complaining about their businesses not doing well because of the amount of taxes they have to pay. Are they considered sanitation workers?
Mm-hmm. I think, yeah.
Je comprends ce qu'il veut dire. Il veut parler, n'est-ce pas, de ceux qui utilisent ces vidangeurs mécaniques ou manuels. Il y a des patrons derrière, n'est-ce pas, comme M. Ndjour, comme moi-même, qui ont leur camion et qui travaillent et qui cherchent, n'est-ce pas, eux, ils ne vont jamais dans le terrain. Ce n'est pas des travailleurs de l'assainissement. C'est des gens qui ont leur business tout simplement et qui cherche, n'est-ce pas, les marchés pour faire fonctionner son business. Ce n'est pas un travailleur de l'assainissement celui-là. Certes, il travaille avec l'assainissement, mais il ne travaille pas dans l'assainissement. Il ne va même pas là où on travaille. Il ne connaît pas les vidangères, il ne connaît pas les sites de dépotoir. Lui, il ne sait absolument rien. Il cherche du boulot, il donne et il demande à ce qu'on travaille. Voilà. Maintenant, ceux qui travaillent là, ce sont ceux-là qu'on appelle les travailleurs de l'assainissement.
Oui,
merci.
Très bien. Thank you very much. I would like to go a little bit more in details or pursue that conversation. Unfortunately, we're very late. And I would like now to close officially the session. And to do that, I would like to invite our esteemed guest, the Joint Secretary of the Ministry of Water Supply of Nepal, who has a strong interest as well in sanitation and fecal sludge management. And yes, I would like to invite him to deliver the closing remarks. Mr. Tiresh Prasad Khatri, the Joint Secretary.
Thank you, Alexander. Good afternoon, everyone. It brings me a great joy to address you today in this session dedicated to enhancing the working conditions of sanitation workers through standardized fecal sludge management services. It has truly been a great session, and deliberations made here not only inspires us, but also provides us with instruments which we can adapt to our own environment and context to improve the lives of sanitation workers in each of our countries. Needless to say that we cannot achieve a good practice and outcome of good sanitation if we fail to address the issues of people who are working at the work front, where the core of the business lies. It is important to recognize the vital role that sanitation workers play in the sanitation supply chain. The tasks, which range from emptying pits and septic tanks to cleaning toilets and operating sewage treatment plants, are essential to ensuring proper sanitation services. However, the issues of rights and working conditions of sanitation workers are often not taken with the seriousness they deserve. There are also issues related to the behavioral practices and general awareness among the workers themselves. Despite the urgency of expanding sanitation services to meet SDG 6.2, sanitation workers face several challenges. They face health and safety risks, social discrimination, and lack of legal recognition due to the informal nature of their work in fecal sludge management. Unfortunately, there is insufficient research on their situation, and progress in establishing standards and certification has been slow. Efforts to formalize and integrate the services of sanitation workers into existing structures remain scarce and poorly documented. Raising the dignity of sanitation workers by raising the profile of this important service they impart to the society is also necessary, for which innovative strategies are required to change mindsets in societies. This session helped us to address these pressing needs and challenges faced by sanitation workers. Also highlighted the importance of standardized fecal sludge management services to recognize their profession and improve their working conditions. The experiences shared by water utilities like Nowasco in Kenya have served as a remarkable source of inspiration for many of us, as they showcased successfully integration of sanitation workers' service into utilities. I was also pleasantly surprised to learn about the recent developments and advocacy efforts within the global networks and initiatives, which have contributed to the growing recognition of sanitation workers' right and working condition of the global agenda. In my country, Nepal, as much as 89% of homes rely on non-sewered sanitation services, as only 11% of homes are connected to the sewered sanitation. In the water supply, sanitation and hygiene policy and water supply and sanitation regulation, which are in advanced stage of finalization, we have integrated provision for health and safety protocols for the frontline sanitation workers. With support from development partners, Nepal has prioritized capacity building to enhance the skills of sanitation workers on handling of fecal sludge for the entire sanitation service chain. Moreover, awareness campaigns targeting communities and households have helped in fostering behavior change towards safe sanitation practices. And finally, I extend my heartfelt appreciation to all the participants, speakers, and organizers for their contribution to this crucial discussion. Thank you all for a very productive session that we had. Thank you.